The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was a circle of silver and light. It was so large that clouds sometimes formed near the high ceiling. In the center of the hall stood the human delegation. There were only 5 of them dressed in simple blue uniforms. Around them sat thousands of alien species. Some had scales, some had many eyes, and others were made of floating gas. None of them were smiling. High Chancellor Vale, a tall being with skin like polished gold and 4 narrow eyes, looked down from his high seat. His voice came through the translation boxes sounding cold and heavy. Humanity has broken the first law of the stars. Vale said, you were given the keys to space. You were given the star drives and the energy grids, but you brought your old ways with you. You built weapons that can crack moons. You altered your own genes to make your bodies stronger and faster. You refuse to let the council monitor your digital minds. You are a virus of violence, and the galaxy will not catch your sickness. The leader of the humans was Ambassador Thomas Vance. He was an older man with gray hair and lines of tired worry on his face. He stood straight and did not look away from the Chancellor's glare. We built weapons because the outer rim is full of monsters that want to eat our children, Thomas said. His voice was calm, but it was loud enough for everyone to hear. We changed our genes because the planets you gave us were toxic and cold. We kept our minds private because a soul is not something you open for inspection. We have never attacked an innocent world. Silence, the Chancellor ordered. A loud hum filled the room as thousands of alien representatives clicked their claws and stamped their feet in agreement with the leader. The vote has already taken place. It is unanimous. The Terran species is hereby stripped of its membership in the Galactic Council. All trade agreements are cancelled. All treaties are dead. You have 30 standard days to pull all your people back into your home sector. After 30 days, any human ship found in Council space will be destroyed without warning. You are cast out. Thomas looked around the massive room. He saw the faces of aliens they had saved from plagues. He saw species they had traded with for 100 years. Every single one of them looked away or stared with cold hatred. Humanity was entirely alone. Very well, Thomas said softly. He did not beg. He did not cry. He turned his back on the highest power in the galaxy and walked out of the hall. His 4 aides followed him, their boots clicking firmly against the silver floor. The journey back to Earth was quiet. The human transport ship was small, and outside its windows, the bright lights of the hyperlanes began to switch off one by one. The Council was already blocking human access to the Galactic Travel Network. They were forcing humanity back into the dark. When Thomas arrived on Earth, the world was in a state of quiet panic. The news had traveled faster than his ship. Leaders from every continent and city were waiting for him in the grand meeting room in Geneva. The screens on the walls showed millions of people gathering in streets looking up at the sky with fear. Is it true? Asked General Marcus Cole. He was a large man with a deep scar across his neck, a memory of a border war with pirate forces. Did they really throw us out? Yes, Thomas said, sitting down heavily. They gave us 30 days. We have to bring back every miner, every scientist, every trader, and every tourist. If they stay past the deadline, they will die. But our sector is empty, cried President Elena Ruiz, the leader of the unified Earth nations. The solar system is crowded, and the 3 colony worlds we have near Sol are barely able to grow enough food. The Council deliberately gave us poor worlds when we joined them. If we are trapped here, our economy will crash. In 100 years, we will starve and fight each other for crumbs. Then we will not stay here, a new voice said. Everyone turned to look at the end of the table. A young woman stood up. Her name was Dr. Clara, the chief scientist of the Terran Advanced Physics Laboratory. She was young, but her eyes were bright with a fierce energy. What do you mean, Clara? Elena asked, leaning forward. The Council thinks they own the galaxy because they control the ancient network, Clara explained, pulling up a holographic map of the Milky Way. The map showed a web of bright blue lines connecting thousands of stars. But there were huge areas of the map that were completely black. They only travel along the paths left behind by the species that lived before us. They are afraid of the deep dark. They think that if a star does not have a council hypergate, it does not exist. The deep dark is full of spatial storms and dead zones, General Cole murmured. No ship can survive a jump into those areas. The gravity shifts will tear a hull apart. A council hull will tear apart, Clara corrected him, a small smile breaking through her serious expression. Because their ships are built on old stolen technology that they do not truly understand. They just follow the recipe book. But we are humans. When the council gave us bad ships, we took them apart. We figured out how they work. My team has been building something different. We call it the Void Engine. She tapped the table and the map changed. A small red dot appeared far away from the council's territory, past the edge of the known galaxy. It was a region known as the Perseus Veil, a place of thick dust clouds, black holes, and violent radiation. To the council, it was a graveyard. To Clara, it was something else. The Void Engine does not use the council's hyperlanes, Clara said. It punches a hole directly through the fabric of space. It is dangerous. Yes, it requires immense power, but it can take us past the council's borders. It can take us to places where they will never dare to follow. The room became completely quiet. The leaders looked at the map, then at each other. The choice was clear. They could stay in their small corner of space, slowly dying under the eyes of a hostile galaxy, or they could leap into the terrifying unknown. How long to fit this engine onto our transport ships and colony fleets? General Cole asked. If we work 24 hours a day using every factory on Earth and Mars, 3 weeks, Clara replied. Then do it, President Elena Ruiz said, her voice turning to steel. We will not wait for them to starve us out. We will leave on our own terms. The next 3 weeks were a time of human history that would be remembered for thousands of years. The old differences between nations vanished overnight. Factories in Asia, America, Europe, and Africa worked without stopping. Great colony ships, massive cargo haulers, and simple mining vessels were lined up in orbit around Earth and Mars. Thousands of engineers worked in spacesuits, welding the strange, bulky void engines onto the backs of human starships. On the 29th day, the solar system was quiet. The cities on Earth were dark because most of the power had been sent to the orbital shipyards. Billions of people had packed their lives into small bags and boarded the giant evacuation ships. Nobody wanted to be left behind under the shadow of the Council's threat. In his flagship, the Vanguard, General Cole watched the radar screens. A fleet of Council warships had appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were sleek silver ships shaped like hunting birds, their weapons glowing with a cold blue light. They had come to watch the humans leave or to kill them if they failed to move. High Chancellor Vale's face appeared on the Vanguard's main screen. Your time is up, humans. Leave the sector immediately or you will be fired upon. General Cole looked at the alien leader. We are leaving Chancellor and we are taking everything with us. Where will you go? Vale asked, his voice full of cruel amusement. You cannot survive without our trade. You cannot live on the rocks of your own small home. You will crawl back in a few years begging for our mercy. Do not hold your breath, Cole said. He cut the transmission. He turned to his crew. Activate the void engines. All ships, jump on my mark. Across the human fleet, thousands of strange boxy engines began to glow with a deep, angry purple light. The space around the ships began to twist and bend. To the watching Council warships, it looked like the universe itself was tearing open. 3, 2, 1 jump, Cole commanded with a flash of purple light that lit up the entire solar system. More than 10,000 human ships vanished at the exact same moment. They did not fly away down a hyperlane. They simply ceased to exist in that part of space. The Council warships scanned the area, but there was nothing left. No debris, no radiation trails, nothing. Humanity was gone. Inside though the void, the journey was a nightmare of noise and color. The walls of the ships groaned under immense pressure. People held on to their seats, praying to whatever gods they believed in. Clara watched her instruments closely. The heat in the engines was rising rapidly, but the hulls were holding. Human steel was heavy, thick, and strong. It was not elegant like alien glass, but it did not break. For 3 days, the fleet moved through the dark where time did not exist. Then, with another violent shake, the engines shut down. The window shutters of the Vanguard opened. General Cole looked out, his mouth falling open in shock. Clara joined him. And gasping for breath. They were no longer in the dark. They were surrounded by a beautiful glowing cloud of gold and green gas. But inside this cloud, there were thousands of stars. And around those stars were worlds, hundreds of them, green and blue, rich with water and life, completely untouched. The dust cloud of the Perseus Veil had hidden a secret paradise from the galaxy. "My God," Cole whispered. "It is beautiful." "It is ours," Clara said, tears in her eyes. "The Council didn't want us. So, we will build our own home." And there, in the deep dark, where no alien dared to look, the kingdom of humanity began its first day. 10 years had passed since the Great Jump. In the heart of the Perseus Veil, what was once a fleet of refugees had become something magnificent. The humans did not build separate nations or fight over borders anymore. The pain of being cast out had welded them into a single unbreakable people. They called their new home the Terran Kingdom. The capital world was named New Avalon. It was a massive planet, larger than Earth, with 3 silver moons and oceans that glowed softly under the light of a golden sun. Where there had once been wild forests and empty plains, a great city now stood. It was not made of the cold, delicate glass preferred by the Galactic Council. It was built of dark gray stone, heavy steel, and warm timber. The buildings were grand and tall, built to last for generations. In the center of the city stood the keep of the first king. The people had chosen Thomas Vance to be their leader, not as a president, but as a king. They wanted someone who represented stability, a father figure for a species that had lost its home. Thomas sat at a long wooden table in the Great Hall, looking at reports from the outer sectors of the kingdom. "We have finished the orbital shipyards around Nova Scotia," General Marcus Cole said, walking up to the table. He looked older now, his hair completely white, but his posture was as straight as a sword. He wore a dark blue uniform with gold trim. The uniform of the Royal Terran Navy. "We are now producing 20 heavy cargo ships and 5 security frigates every month. Our steel production has tripled since we tapped the iron asteroids in the third ring." "The farms?" King Thomas asked, his voice deep and warm. "The soil on New Avalon and the sister world of Dida is incredibly rich, Your Majesty," replied Queen Elena, who acted as the head of the Civil Council. "We are growing more food than we can eat. The storage domes are full. For the first time in human history, no child goes to bed hungry anywhere in our territory. We don't need the Council's trade. We never did." Thomas smiled, but his eyes remained watchful. "And what of doctors' work? Have we secured our borders? The void gates are active." A voice called out from the doorway. Clara walked into the room. She was no longer the young scientist in a lab coat. She was now the grand scholar of the kingdom, wearing a long robe of deep purple, though she still had grease on her fingers from her latest experiments. "We have placed hidden scanners all along the edge of the Perseus Veil. If any Council ship tries to enter the dust cloud, we will know before they even cross the boundary. Furthermore, our void gates allow our ships to travel between our 20 colony worlds in minutes, completely bypassing the need for hyperlanes." "Good," Thomas said. "The Council thinks we are dead or starving. Let them keep thinking that peace is a rare gift and I want our people to enjoy it for as long as possible. But peace is a fragile thing in a universe full of greed. Far outside the borders of the Terran kingdom, the galaxy was changing. The Galactic Council had grown arrogant. Without humanity's strong soldiers and clever engineers to protect the outer rims, pirate fleets and rogue factions had begun to attack Council trade routes. The Council's sleek, beautiful ships were excellent for show, but they were weak in a real fight. One day, a small, battered ship emerged from the thick dust clouds at the edge of the Terran kingdom. It was not a human ship. It belonged to the Krell, a lizard-like species that had once been friendly neighbors to humanity before the exile. The ship was burning, its engines spitting sparks, and its hull was covered in scorch marks. 2 Royal Navy frigates immediately surrounded the alien vessel. The human captains were cautious, but when they heard the distress call, they did not fire. "Help us," the Krell captain cried through the radio, his voice shaking with terror. "The Council has abandoned us. The Blood Raiders are destroying our world. We remembered the humans. We remembered your kindness. Please save us." The Krell ship was towed to an orbital station, and its crew was brought down to New Avalon. The Krell captain, a small reptile named Turk, knelt before King Thomas in the Great Hall. His scales were dry and he was wounded. "Rise, Captain Turk," Thomas said, stepping down from his chair. "A guest does not kneel in the kingdom of man." "Tell us what has happened." Turk stood up, his tail twitching with anxiety. "After you were cast out, the Council raised the taxes on all the smaller species. They said they needed more money to build death. But when the Blood Raiders, a massive pirate empire from the deep outer rim, attacked our world, the Council refused to send help. They said our planet was not economically vital to the core worlds. They left us to die. My people are being taken as slaves. I remembered that humanity used to protect the weak. I risked everything to fly through the death cloud to find you." The Great Hall became dead silent. The human generals and advisors looked at each other. Many of them remembered how the Krell representative had voted to exile humanity 10 years ago. They had stood by and done nothing while humans were forced from their homes. Why should we help them? General Cole asked privately to the king, his voice low and harsh. They watched us leave. They did nothing to help us when we were cast out. Let the council fix its own mess. King Thomas looked out the high window of the hall, looking down at the beautiful, peaceful city of New Avalon. He saw human children playing in the streets below, safe and happy. If we leave them to die, Marcus, then we are no better than the council, Thomas said softly. The council cast us out because they feared our nature. They thought we were monsters. If we act like monsters now, then they were right. We did not build this kingdom just to hide in the dark while the universe burns. We built it to be a beacon of light. The king turned back to Captain Turok. The Terran kingdom will help you, Captain. We will show your people and the galaxy what happens when you ask humanity for aid. General Cole sighed, but a fierce smile grew on his face. Well, boys, it looks like we are going to war. Let's see how our new toys work. For the past 10 years, humanity had not just built farms and cities. They had also built a military designed for a single purpose, to ensure that no one could ever force them into exile again. They had created the dreadnoughts, massive warships, 3 times the size of anything the council possessed. These ships were covered in thick layers of heavy iron alloy armor and carried weapons that fired solid slugs of metal at near the speed of light. They did not use the elegant plasma weapons of the aliens. They used raw kinetic force. The flagship of the fleet was the King George. It was a mountain of black steel, 2 kilometers long, with a massive void engine humming in its belly. General Cole took command of the rescue fleet, consisting of the King George and 12 heavy cruisers. Captain Turk boarded the flagship, his eyes wide with amazement as he looked at the sheer size and power of the human technology. Your ships, they are so heavy, Turk whispered. They look like they belong on the ground, not in the stars. They fly just fine, son. Cole said, patting the metal console, and they don't break when someone shoots at them. Hold on to something. We are skipping the hyperlanes. The 13 human ships activated their void engines. The space in front of them tore open in a flash of purple light, and the fleet plunged into the dark. A few hours later, near the Krell home planet of Soros, a scene of terrible destruction was taking place. A fleet of 50 pirate ships, bully, jagged vessels made of junk and stolen armor, was bombarding the planet. Fires burned across the green surface of the world. The pirate leader, a giant alien with 4 arms, laughed as his ships captured fleeing civilian transports. Suddenly, the space above the planet shook. 13 purple tears opened in the sky. Out of the tears stepped the human fleet. They did not arrive at the edge of the system. They arrived directly in the middle of the pirate formation. Their black holes blocking out the starlight. The pirate leader stops laughing. What are those? Those are not council ships. This is General Marcus Cole of the Royal Terran Navy. A voice boomed over all radio channels. You are attacking friends of the kingdom. Drop your shields and surrender or we will erase you from the sky. The pirate leader roared in anger and ordered his ships to attack. Hundreds of plasma beams hit the side of the King George. The energy flashed against the human armor, melting the out but doing no real damage. The thick steel plates absorbed the heat easily. Our turn, General Cole said calmly. Fire all kinetic batteries. The human ships did not fire bright light beams. They fired heavy solid metal slugs. The sound of the massive cannons vibrating through the hull was like thunder. The slugs traveled so fast they could not be seen. When they hit the pirate ships, they did not just drain the shields. They tore right through them, punching clean holes through the alien holes, causing the pirate vessels to explode from the inside out. In less than 10 minutes, half of the pirate fleet was turned into floating scrap metal. The remaining pirate ships turned and fled in absolute terror, jumping away into hyperspace as fast as their engines could carry them. The Krell people on the planet below looked up at the sky in wonder. The monsters that had been destroying their world had been broken in minutes by a mysterious, powerful fleet of black giants. Captain Turk wept with joy as he saw his home world saved. He turned to General Cole and fell to his knees. Thank you. Thank you, human. The galaxy forgot you, but you did not forget mercy. Cole helped the alien up. A grim smile on his face. Go tell your people that humanity is back and we have built our own kingdom. The news of the Battle of Soros spread across the galaxy like wildfire. It was a shock to the system. For 10 years, the Galactic Council had told everyone that humanity was a dead species. A group of violent savages who would starve in the dark corners of the universe. Now, stories spreading of massive black ships made of iron, weapons that could shatter cruisers in a single shot, and an army that traveled without using the Council's hyperlanes. In the High Hall of the Galactic Council, there was chaos. Representatives from hundreds of smaller worlds were shouting and slamming their fists on their desks. You told us they were gone, shouted the representative of the Valari, a bird-like. But they just saved the Krell. The pirates were destroying a world, and the Council did nothing. The humans came out of nowhere and destroyed 50 enemy ships in minutes. We want protection or we will leave the Council, too. High Chancellor Vale struck his golden gavel against the desk, his 4 eyes burning with rage. Silence. The humans are a lawless threat. They are using forbidden technologies. They have built an illegal military. We do not know where they are hiding, but we will find them, and we will finish what we started 10 years ago. But behind his angry words, Vale was terrified. The Council's spies had brought him pictures of the human dreadnoughts. They looked like mountains of steel. The Council's sleek, elegant ships were built for speed and beauty, not for enduring the brutal kinetic pounding that the humans used. While the Council argued, the Terran kingdom was growing. The Krell had officially asked to join the kingdom. They did not want to be subjects. They wanted to be allies. King Thomas Vance welcomed them with open arms. He did not force them to change their culture or give up their laws. He only asked for two things: free trade and a promise to help protect each other. Soon, other small species began to send secret messages into the Perseus Veil. The Valari, the Griffith, and the small aquatic species known as the Omar all sent secret ambassadors to New Avalon. They were tired of the Council's high taxes and lack of protection. They saw the human kingdom as a place of safety, freedom, and strength. King Thomas sat in the Grand Council room of New Avalon, surrounded by human leaders and the new alien ambassadors. The room was warm, filled with the smell of fresh food and the sound of soft music. It was a sharp contrast to the cold, sterile hall of the Galactic Council. "We welcome you all," King Thomas said, standing at the head of the table. He wore a simple golden crown, but his clothes were still those of a practical leader. "The Council told you that space belongs to them. They told you that you must obey their rules or be left to die. We believe that space is big enough for everyone to be free. The Terran kingdom is not an empire. We do not want to rule you. We want to stand beside you." The Valari ambassador, a proud bird with blue feathers, bowed his head. "King Thomas, the Council, is preparing for war. They are gathering a massive fleet. Chancellor Vale is calling it a peacekeeping force. But we know the truth. They are going to search the edges of the galaxy until they find your home. If they find you, they will destroy everything you have built." General Marcus Cole leaned forward, his large hands resting on the table. "Let them try. Our scanners show that their fleet is large. Yes, they have 500 ships, but their ships are built like glass toys. They use shields that can stop plasma, but they have no defense against a 2-ton chunk of iron flying at 30,000 meters per second. We must not be arrogant, Marcus," Dr. Clara Elson warned, stepping up to a large holographic projector. "The Council has one advantage: numbers. If they find our colony worlds, they can overwhelm our defense stations before our main fleet can arrive, and their hyperlanes allow them to move quickly between the core systems. Then we change the map," Clara said, her eyes flashing with excitement. She tapped the projector and a map of the Galactic Council's territory appeared. "The Council relies entirely on their hyper gates. These gates are ancient machines that open the lanes. If we can place a device near a hypergate, we can send a high-frequency void signal that will temporarily shut the gate down. We can split their big fleet into small pieces. We can lock them in their own rooms." "Is that possible?" King Thomas asked. "Yes, but it requires a secret mission." Clara explained, "We need to plant these signal boxes on 3 major hypergates at the edge of Council space. If we do that, their fleet will be trapped in the core worlds, unable to move out to attack our new allies or search for us." "I will lead the mission," said a young woman sitting near General Cole. Her name was Captain Sarah Vance. She was the king's daughter, a brave pilot who had grown up in the years following the exile. She had her father's calm determination and her mother's sharp mind. "Sarah, it is too dangerous," King Thomas said, his heart aching at the thought of losing his only child. "If you are caught by the Council, they will execute you as a rebel and a spy." "Father, the Council cast us out when I was a child," Sarah said, looking directly into her father's eyes. "I remember the fear on people's faces. I remember how cold it was in the dark when we didn't know if we would find a home. We have built something beautiful here. The aliens who are joining us are doing so because they trust us to protect them. I am a pilot of the Royal Navy. It is my duty to ensure our future is safe." Thomas looked at his daughter for a long time. He saw the strength of humanity in her face, the refusal to back down, the courage to face the dark. He slowly nodded. "Very well, Captain Vance," the king said, his voice thick with emotion. "Take the Shadow, our best stealth frig. May the light of Earth guide you." The Shadow was a new kind of ship. It was small, completely black, and used a special hull coating that absorbed all radar and light. It did not use a standard engine. It drifted through space like a ghost, silent and invisible. 2 days later, Sarah and her small crew arrived at the first target, the hypergate of the Vega system. It was a massive silver ring floating in space, surrounded by Council guard ships. The guard ships were beautiful, but their crews were lazy, confident that no one would ever dare to approach a Council facility. "Move us in close," Sarah whispered to her pilot. "Keep the systems at 0 emissions." The Shadow drifted past the sleek alien cruisers, so close that Sarah could see the lights inside their windows. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her hands were steady on the controls. A human spacewalker stepped out of the airlock, floating silently through the dark. He attached a small black box to the side of the giant silver ring, then floated back inside. "First box is set," the crewman reported. "Good. Move to the next target," Sarah ordered. For 5 days, Shadow played a dangerous game of hide-and-seek with the Council Navy. They planted the second box at the Deneb Gate and the third at the Orion Gate. It was a perfect operation, done without firing a single shot or raising a single alarm. However, as they were turning to leave the Orion system, a sudden solar flare from the nearby star flashed across space. The massive burst of radiation blinded the Shadow stealth sensors for a few seconds. On the radar of a nearby Council cruiser, a small blip appeared. "Alert! Unknown vessel detected." The alien captain shouted. "A fire attractor beam. Capture them." A bright beam of blue energy shot out from the Council ship, locking onto the Shadow. The little human ship shook violently as it was pulled toward the giant alien cruiser. "Captain, we are caught," the pilot cried. "Our engines don't have enough power to break the beam." Sarah Vance did not panic. She looked at the giant alien ship on her view screen. She knew that if they were captured, the Council would find the signal boxes and the plan would fail. The Terran kingdom would be exposed. "Low to the kinetic torpedo," Sarah said, her voice dropping to a calm, icy whisper. "But, Captain, we are a stealth ship. If we fire, our location will be completely revealed to every ship in the system. Then we make sure they don't have time to do anything about it," Sarah said. "Target their tractor beam projector. Fire." A single heavy metal spike shot out from the front of the Shadow. It didn't flash or glow. It simply struck the Council ship's tractor beam dish at incredible speed. The dish shattered into a million pieces. The blue beam snapped. "Engage void engine now," Sarah yelled. Before the Council ships could fire their weapons, the Shadow tore a hole in space and vanished in a cloud of purple sparks. Back on the Council cruiser, the alien captain looked at his broken sensor screens in absolute disbelief. A tiny ship had just destroyed his main weapon with a piece of flying metal and then disappeared into thin air. Sarah's mission was a success. The traps were set. The Alliance of the Weak was forming under the banner of the Human King, and the Galactic Council had no idea that their doors were about to be locked. High Chancellor Vale stood before his grand fleet. 500 warships shining like silver jewels were lined up in the space near the core worlds. This was the largest army the Galactic Council had gathered in 200 years. They were ready to sweep the galaxy, find the hidden humans, and destroy them completely. "The hour of cleansing has arrived," Vale announced to his fleet commanders over the secure network. "The humans have infected our subject worlds. They have convinced the Krell and the Valari to rebel against our rule. We will find their hidden nest. We will burn their worlds, and we will remind the galaxy that the Council is the supreme authority. Forward." The massive fleet began to move toward the outer hypergates. They intended to use the gates to jump across the galaxy in a matter of hours, crushing any rebellion before it could start. But as the first group of Council warships approached the Vega hypergate, the giant silver ring suddenly began to shake. The blue light inside the ring turned a dangerous violent red. "Sir, something is wrong with the gate," an alien technician shouted from the control room of the flagship. "The energy frequencies are twisting. It's an external signal. It's overriding our computers." In a flash of purple light, the Vega hypergate shut down. The light died, leaving only a cold ring of dead metal. Moments later, messages flooded in from the other sectors. The Den Gate was dead. The Orion Gate was dead. The entire hyperlane network that connected the Council to the Outer Rim had been cut off. The giant Silver Fleet was suddenly trapped in its own home territory, unable to move out into the wider galaxy. How is this possible? Chancellor Vale roared, slamming his golden fist into his desk. Who did this? The Human's Chancellor, a cold voice said. Vale turned to his main view screen. The screen cracked with static and then the face of King Thomas Vance appeared. He was sitting on his stone throne in New Avalon, looking calm and powerful. "Hello, Chancellor Vale," Thomas said. His voice was heard not just by the Chancellor, but by every ship in the Council fleet and every world in the core systems. Humanity had hacked their communication network. 10 years ago, you cast us out into the dark. You told us we were a disease. You thought we would die without your walls and your trade. Human barbarian Vale spat. You have committed an act of war. We will hunt you down. You cannot hunt anything, Chancellor. Thomas replied smoothly. We have locked your doors. Your fleet is trapped. For 10 years, you ignored the outer worlds. You let pirates attack them while you took their taxes. Now, those worlds have chosen a new protector. The Krell, the Valari, the Gree, and 20 other species have joined the Terran kingdom. We are no longer a group of refugees. We are an empire of free peoples. You are nothing but thieves and monsters, Vale screamed. We are humans, Thomas corrected him. And we protect our friends. If your fleet stays in the core worlds, you will live. But if you try to fix those gates, or if you send ships into the Outer Rim, we will meet you in battle. The age of the Council is over. The screen went black. Chancellor Vale was shaking with rage. His pride could not accept this humiliation. To be locked away by a species he considered to be animals was too much to bear. Bring the engineering ships, Vale ordered. Use all our power to force the Vega Gate open. I don't care if it blows up. We are going to war. It took the Council 3 days of intense work and massive power consumption to break the human signal box on the Vega Gate. The ring flared back to life, but its energy was unstable. Vale did not care. He ordered a force of 200 warships to jump through the gate immediately. Heading directly for the sector where the human ships had been spotted during the rescue of the Krell. When the Council fleet emerged from the hyperlane near the Saurus system, they found that the humans were already waiting for them. But it was not a small rescue fleet this time. It was the full might of the Royal Terran Navy. 50 human dreadnoughts stood in a wall of black steel. Behind them were hundreds of cruisers and frigates provided by both humanity and their new alien allies. The Krell and Valari ships flew alongside the human giants, their flags waving proudly in the starlight. In the center of the human line was the King George, commanded by General Marcus Cole, and beside it was the Vanguard with Captain Sarah Vance at the helm. The Council fleet commander, an arrogant admiral named Kalen, looked at the human formation. He saw that they were outnumbered 4-1 by his sleek advanced ships. They think their big iron boxes can save them. Admiral Kalen laughed. All ships advance. Fire all plasma cannons. Show them the power of the Council. The Silver Fleet moved forward like a wave of light. Hundreds of bright blue plasma beams shot out from their ships, crossing the dark space and striking the human line. The sky was filled with blinding flashes of energy. Inside the King George, the alarms were chiming, but there was no panic. Shields are down to 80%, armor is holding at 99%. The officer reported, the alien plasma is heating the outer plates, but the cooling systems are handling it. General Cole sat in his command chair, calmly chewing on a piece of dried tobacco. He waited until the council fleet was in close range, close enough that he could see the individual silver hulls. "All right, children," Cole said into his microphone. "They've had their fun. Let's show them how we do things in the kingdom. All ships, release the thunder." The human dreadnoughts opened their main battery ports. These were not light weapons. These were massive electromagnetic rail guns running the entire length of the giant ships. When they fired, spaces itself seemed to shake. Hundreds of heavy tungsten slugs, each the size of a large house, were launched at a fraction of the speed of light. They hit the council fleet like a solid wall of iron. The elegant silver shields of the alien ships did not stop them. The shields were designed to deflect energy, not to stop 1,000,000 tons of fast-moving metal. The slugs smashed through the shields instantly. They hit the beautiful silver holes, crushing them like empty tin cans. A single shot from a human dreadnought went right through a council cruiser from front to back, splitting the ship in half before exploding its reactor. The space was filled with bright white explosions as dozens of council ships were destroyed in the first seconds of the human attack. "What is happening?" Admiral Kalen screamed as his flagship shook violently. A slug had just torn away his left engine wing, leaving the ship spinning out of control. "Our shields are useless. Their weapons are primitives. Why are they killing us?" "Because metal doesn't care about your beauty, alien," General Cole said. Though Kalen could not hear him, the battle was a complete disaster for the council. The human ships were too tough to kill, and their weapons were too destructive. The alien fleet, which had never fought a real war against a strong enemy, fell into a panic. Ships began to crash into each other as they tried to turn around and flee back to the hypergate. Captain Sarah Vance brought the vanguard right into the middle of the retreating enemy. Her quick agile frigate used smaller kinetic cannons to disable the engines of the fleeing ships, trapping them in the sector. "This is Captain Sarah Vance," she announced to the surviving council ships. "Drop your weapons and shut down your engines. Your admiral is defeated. If you surrender, you will be treated with honor. If you fly, you will die." One by one, the silver ships shut down their lights. The great council fleet had been broken in less than an hour. Admiral Kalen's burning flagship was captured, and the admiral himself was brought aboard, the King George. He was brought to the bridge where General Cole was waiting for him. The alien admiral was shaking, looking at the human soldiers with a mixture of fear and hatred. "You have won this day, human," Kalen hissed. "But the council has millions of soldiers. We will never stop until you are destroyed." General Cole walked up to the alien looking down at him with cold hard eyes. "You see this uniform, Admiral? It's blue like the sky of the world you took from us. We don't want your millions of soldiers. We don't want your core worlds. But if you ever come back to our side of the fence, we won't just break your fleet. We will come to your golden hall and we will pull your chancellor off his high seat." Cole turned away. "Take him to the brig and send a message to Chancellor Vale. Tell him the tax collection is closed." The victory at the Soros system changed the face of the galaxy forever. The Galactic Council was no longer the supreme power. They were now a frightened old regime, locked behind their broken hypergates while the outer rim of the galaxy celebrated its freedom. The smaller species no longer feared the gold and silver of the core worlds. They looked to the deep dark of the Perseus Veil where the black dreadnoughts of humanity kept the peace. On New Avalon, the day of celebration had arrived. It was the 10th anniversary of the Great Jump, and the victory over the Council fleet had made it a historic event. The streets of the capital city were filled with millions of people, humans, Krell, Valari, Grith, and many others. They walked together, sharing food, singing songs, and waving the banner of the Terran kingdom, which showed an image of the planet Earth surrounded by a golden crown. Inside the keep of the first king, a grand ceremony was taking place. The great hall was filled to capacity. King Thomas Vance stood at the end of the hall wearing his royal robes. Beside him stood Queen Elena, General Marcus Cole, and Dr. Clara. Walking down the center of the room under the proud gaze of thousands of onlookers, was Captain Sarah Vance. She was dressed in her dress uniform, her face calm and proud. She knelt before her father. "Captain Sarah Vance," King Thomas said, his voice echoing through the loud hall. "For your courage in the face of danger, for your brilliant service in securing our borders, and for your defense of our allies, I hereby name you the commander of the Royal Fleet. Rise, Admiral Vance." The hall exploded with cheers and applause. The alien ambassadors clapped their hands and clicked their claws with a wild enthusiasm. Sarah stood up, a bright smile on her face, and saluted her father, then turned to face the crowd. Later that evening, the celebration moved outside. The 3 silver moons of New Avalon shone brightly in the night sky, and the golden clouds of the Perseus Veil glowed softly, casting a beautiful light over the entire planet. Fireworks of purple and gold filled the air, mimicking the flash of the void engines that had brought them to this paradise. King Thomas walked out onto the high balcony of the keep, looking out over his kingdom. He looked older now, the weight of a whole species resting on his shoulders, but his heart was full of peace. General Cole joined him, carrying 2 glasses of dark human whiskey. He handed one to the king. "A good night, Your Majesty," Cole said, taking a sip. "The boys in the shipyard say we have 5 more dreadnoughts finishing construction next week. The Allies are sending their own young people to train in our mines. We are building a combined fleet. It is more than I ever dreamed of, Marcus," Thomas said, looking at the happy crowds below. "When we were standing in that silver hall in the council core being told that we were trash, I thought it was the end of human history. I thought we were going to die in the dark." "Humanity doesn't die in the dark," Thomas Cole said with a small laugh. "We just build a bigger flashlight. The council thought they could break us by taking away our home. They forgot that home isn't a place. It's the people. It's the spirit." Clara Elson walked out onto the balcony, holding a small electronic tablet. She looked up from her screen, a warm smile on her face. "Your Majesty, I have some interesting data from our long-range scanners." "What is it, Clara?" "More council ships?" Thomas asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. "No," Clara replied, turning her screen so the kids could see. It showed a map of the galaxy, but the black areas, the unexplored zones outside council control, were beginning to open up. "The council is falling apart. Several more core worlds have just cut their ties with Chancellor Vale. They are refusing to send him resources. But more importantly, our scouts have found 3 new human colony signals far to the galactic south." "Other humans?" Sarah asked, joining them on the balcony. "I thought we brought everyone with us during the Great Jump. These are the ones who were lost during the old corporate wars before we even joined the council." Clara explained. "They have been hiding in the deep space for 50 years. They heard about the Terran kingdom. They heard about a place where humans are free and strong. They are flying toward us now. They want to come home." Thomas felt a tear slip down his cheek. He looked up at the stars at the beautiful wild galaxy that had once been so hostile to his people. "Let them come," King Thomas said, his voice filled with a powerful pride. "Tell our fleets to meet them at the border. Give them an escort of honor. Let every human know, no matter how far away they are, that they have a kingdom now, a kingdom that will never abandon them." Down in the streets, the music played on. The human children and the alien children ran together through the parks, looking up at the beautiful fireworks. They did not know the fear of the old days. They did not know what it felt like to be banned or cast out or told they were not good enough. They only knew the safety, the warmth, and the heavy iron protection of the Terran kingdom. Humanity had been thrown away by the stars. But they did not cry, and they did not beg. They went into the deep dark. They conquered the void and they built a kingdom of their own.